Stop whatever you are doing, because what you are about to hear is not a drill, not a simulation, and not the kind of geopolitical speculation that gets walked back by morning. At 0347 hours Zulu time, the United States Navy's most advanced warship, the crown jewel of American power projection, the USS Gerald R. Ford, CVN-78, America's newest and most technologically sophisticated aircraft carrier, representing $11 billion in naval engineering and the centerpiece of Carrier Strike Group 12, turned away from Iranian waters and retreated at maximum speed toward the relative safety of the Arabian Sea. The reason for this retreat is not mechanical failure, not scheduled rotation, not routine repositioning. The Gerald Ford fled because Iran just demonstrated a drone swarm capability so overwhelming, so mathematically unstoppable, and so precisely coordinated that every defensive assumption underlying American carrier operations in contested waters has been rendered obsolete in a single night. 2,000 suicide drones, not 200, not 500. 2,000 independently targetable, AI-coordinated, expendable aerial munitions launched simultaneously from concealed positions across Iran's southern coastline, each programmed to overwhelm the Ford's defensive perimeter through sheer numerical superiority that no existing point defense system was designed to counter. The number Iran deployed in this demonstration exceeds the entire inventory of interceptor missiles carried by the Ford and its accompanying Aegis destroyers by a factor of 4. This is not a capability that can be countered through superior technology or tactical excellence. This is a mathematical reality that transforms the carrier from invincible power projection platform into floating target requiring protection rather than providing it. The swarm launched in 3 successive waves across a 47-minute window, each wave timed to arrive at the Carrier Strike Group's defensive perimeter before the previous wave could be fully engaged, creating continuous overlapping attack profiles that prevented reload cycles and ensured interceptor magazine depletion before the final wave arrived. The first wave numbered 600 drones configured for electronic warfare and radar saturation, flooding defensive systems with false targets and electromagnetic interference. The second wave numbered 800 drones configured for anti-radiation targeting, homing on active radar emissions from the strike group's defensive sensors. The third wave numbered 600 drones configured with armor-penetrating warheads, programmed to exploit the gaps created by the first 2 waves and strike the carrier's flight deck, island structure, and munitions elevators. If this channel has been giving you the analysis that cuts through the noise of official narratives and mainstream defense commentary, now is the moment to make sure you never miss an update. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this video with everyone in your network who is serious about understanding what is actually happening at the sharp edge of global power competition. What you are about to learn has not been reported by mainstream sources, will not be acknowledged by Pentagon briefers, and represents a fundamental transformation in naval warfare that every military professional understands but no official spokesperson will admit publicly. Tonight's analysis takes you inside every dimension of this event. The technical specifications of Iran's Shahab 136 successor drones that made this swarm possible. The tactical mathematics that prove why carrier defense systems cannot counter attacks of this scale. The operational implications for American naval presence throughout the Middle East. The strategic consequences for regional power balance when the symbol of American military dominance retreats rather than engages. The global reactions as allies question American commitment and adversaries calculate new opportunities. And the existential reckoning facing Pentagon planners who must now redesign carrier doctrine around threats they previously dismissed as technologically impossible. The drones themselves represent evolutionary refinement of Iran's Shahab 136 design, modified through extensive collaboration with Russian engineers who provided technical specifications based on battlefield data from Ukraine operations. The enhanced variant carries designation Shahab 149 in Iranian military nomenclature, featuring upgraded composite materials that reduce radar cross-section by 40% compared to predecessor models, improved turbofan engines extending operational range from 2,500 kilometers to 3,800 kilometers, and enhanced onboard processing, allowing autonomous target discrimination without continuous command data link. Each drone measures 3. 5 meters in length with 2-meter wingspan, weighs 220 kilograms at launch, including 45-kilogram high-explosive warhead, and achieves cruising speed of 185 kilometers per hour at operational altitude between 50 and 300 meters above sea surface. The low-altitude profile combined with reduced radar signature creates detection challenges for carrier group radar systems optimized for detecting supersonic anti-ship missiles at higher altitudes and longer ranges. The engagement geometry forces defensive systems to detect, track, and engage targets appearing over the radar horizon at distances under 15 kilometers, providing engagement windows measured in seconds rather than minutes. The production economics fundamentally alter cost exchange calculations that previously favored defenders. Iranian sources indicate per unit manufacturing cost approximately $35,000 per Shahab 149 drone, meaning the 2,000 drone swarm represents $70 million in expendable munitions. Defending against this swarm requires ship-launched interceptors, costing between $4 million per Standard Missile-2 and $3 million per Evolved Sea Sparrow missile. The Ford Strike Group carries approximately 450 ready interceptors across all escort vessels. Engaging 2,000 targets requires expending the entire defensive magazine at total cost exceeding $3 billion to counter a $70 million attack. Even before magazine depletion, the cost asymmetry is catastrophic, allowing Iran to impose unsustainable defensive expenditures through repeated demonstrations. The swarm coordination reveals sophisticated command architecture, enabled by Chinese-provided Beidou satellite navigation integration and artificial intelligence processing, based on algorithms initially developed for commercial applications, but adapted for military targeting. Each drone operates semi-autonomously, using onboard sensors and processing, receiving only general waypoint updates and target area designations via encrypted data link rather than continuous remote piloting. This distributed control architecture ensures the swarm remains functional even when individual drones are destroyed or electronic warfare disrupts communications, as each unit defaults to autonomous search and destroy protocols within assigned target zones. The pre-programmed attack sequencing demonstrates understanding of carrier battle group defensive layering and deliberate exploitation of reload timing vulnerabilities. Modern air defense systems achieve impressive single-shot probability of kill against isolated targets, but sustained engagement rates are limited by mechanical reload cycles, fire control channel availability, and radar processing capacity. The SM-2 launch cycle requires approximately 8 seconds between successive firings from each vertical launch cell. The ESSM quad-pack configuration allows 4 missiles per cell, but still requires 6-second intervals between cell firings. The Phalanx close-in weapon system provides last-ditch defense against leakers, but carries only 1,550 rounds of 20mm ammunition, providing approximately 20 seconds of continuous firing before magazine exhaustion. The Iranian attack sequence exploited these reload limitations by ensuring drone arrival rates exceeded defensive engagement capacity throughout the attack timeline. The first wave's 600 electronic warfare drones arrived across a 12-minute window, requiring sustained engagement rate of 50 targets per minute across the entire strike group defensive perimeter. This rate exceeds the combined launch capacity of all 4 Aegis destroyers escorting the Ford, even operating at maximum theoretical performance. The second wave arrived while defensive magazines were still recovering from first-wave engagements, forcing weapons officers to choose between engaging new radar-seeking threats, approaching active emitters, or holding fire to avoid revealing radar positions. The third wave exploited the gaps created by these impossible choices, penetrating defensive rings that had been depleted through mathematical attrition rather than technological superiority. The demonstration was observed by American intelligence assets through multiple collection platforms, including overhead satellite imagery, tracking launch plumes, signals intelligence monitoring command data links, and human intelligence reporting from regional sources with access to Iranian military communications. The attack was not intended to sink the Ford, but to demonstrate capability to do so, with all drones programmed to abort and self-destruct before reaching terminal engagement range. The message was unmistakable. Iran possesses the industrial capacity to produce drone swarms on this scale, the command infrastructure infrastructure to coordinate attacks of this complexity and the tactical doctrine to employ these capabilities against America's most protected naval assets. The Ford's retreat represents the first time an American aircraft carrier has withdrawn from a assigned patrol station due to hostile action since USS Pueblo capture considerations during heightened tensions in 1968. The decision was made by Carrier Strike Group Commander Rear Admiral Mitchell following secure consultation with CENTCOM headquarters and the Pentagon's National Military Command Center. The calculus was straightforward. Remaining on station placed the carrier within range of demonstrated Iranian capabilities that could not be reliably countered given current defensive loadouts and tactical positioning. The risk of actual engagement was assessed as unacceptable given potential for catastrophic loss of multi-billion-dollar strategic asset and 5,000 personnel. The operational implications extend far beyond single carrier repositioning. Every carrier operating within 3,800 kilometers of Iranian launch facilities now faces identical mathematics. The entire carrier presence model throughout the Persian Gulf, Gulf of Oman, and Northern Arabian Sea requires fundamental reassessment when the platforms that project power require protection from threats they cannot defeat. Air wings designed to strike targets hundreds of kilometers inland become irrelevant when the carrier itself cannot approach within drone range of hostile coastlines without accepting prohibitive loss probabilities. If you want analysis this sharp, this deep, this willing to challenge official narratives, subscribe now to ensure you never miss an update. The information being presented here is based on Western intelligence estimates, satellite imagery analysis, and signals intelligence reporting that mainstream outlets either cannot access or choose not to report because it contradicts comfortable assumptions about American military supremacy. The tactical response options available to carrier commanders have been systematically eliminated by Iranian capability demonstrations. The traditional defense-in-depth model assumed threats could be engaged at multiple range bands with overlapping systems providing redundancy. Long-range SM-6 interceptors engage supersonic anti-ship missiles at distances exceeding 250 kilometers. Medium-range ESSM provides area defense against subsonic cruise missiles at ranges out to 50 kilometers. Short-range rolling airframe missiles engage leakers inside 15 kilometers. Final point defense relies on phalanx guns inside 2 kilometers. This layered architecture works effectively against traditional threat profiles featuring dozens of high-value missiles launched from known platforms. Against 2,000 expendable drones arriving in coordinated waves specifically timed to overwhelm reload cycles, every defensive layer fails simultaneously. The long-range interceptors are ineffective because drone radar signatures are too small for reliable engagement beyond visual range, and the cost-exchange ratio makes expending $4 million missiles against $35,000 drones economically catastrophic. The medium-range missiles achieve excellent kill probabilities, but magazine capacity limits total engagement capacity to approximately 350 targets across entire strike group before defensive depletion. The short-range missiles provide last-ditch capability but arrive too late to prevent defensive saturation. The point defense guns cannot maintain fire rates necessary to engage hundreds of simultaneous targets converging from multiple approach vectors. Offensive counter-drone operations provide no solution because the launch platforms are mobile truck-mounted systems dispersed across Iran's 1,800-kilometer southern coastline, concealed in hardened shelters and protected by integrated air defense networks that contested penetration by American strike aircraft. Destroying 2,000 drones requires locating and striking the launch vehicles before drone employment, a targeting challenge requiring surveillance coverage and strike responsiveness that exceed current intelligence and operational capabilities. Even successful strikes against launcher positions cannot prevent follow-on attacks from replacement systems that Iranian industrial capacity can produce faster than American forces can destroy them. Electronic warfare countermeasures demonstrate limited effectiveness against distributed swarm architectures that do not rely on continuous command data links and employ autonomous navigation during terminal approach. Jamming commercial GPS signals forces drones to fall back on inertial navigation with reduced precision, but does not prevent attacks against carrier-sized targets where 10-meter circular error probable remains militarily effective. Spoofing navigation signals requires broadcast power levels that reveal jammer positions, creating new targeting opportunities for anti-radiation configured drones in subsequent waves. Cyber attack options against drone command systems require access to Iranian military networks that remain resilient against penetration attempts and could trigger escalation into direct offensive cyber operations. The strategic implications transform fundamental assumptions about American power projection throughout the Middle East. Carrier presence has served as visible symbol of American commitment, providing daily flight operations, supporting regional partners, maintaining pressure on adversaries, and enabling rapid strike options against emerging threats. When carriers cannot safely operate within range of missions they are intended to perform, the entire power projection model requires reconceptualization around threats that render previous capabilities obsolete. American alliance commitments throughout the region depend on credible demonstrations that American military power can defend partners against regional threats. Gulf Cooperation Council states have structured defense planning around assumptions that American carrier presence provides umbrella protection, enabling their own limited military capabilities. Israel's strategic calculations include expectations that American carrier-based strike capabilities provide backstop deterrence against Iranian aggression. When the carrier itself becomes vulnerable, target requiring protection rather than providing it, every allied government must reassess the credibility of American security guarantees and the reliability of military commitments that cannot be executed in contested environments. The Israeli leadership faces immediate operational consequences as American carrier withdrawal removes strike capabilities that featured prominently in planning for potential Iranian nuclear facility targeting. The scenarios that assumed American carrier-based strike packages would suppress Iranian air defenses, while Israeli F-35Is penetrated to deliver bunker-penetrating munitions against Natanz and Fordo facilities, no longer function when the carriers cannot safely position within combat radius of Iranian targets. Israeli strike planning must now account for unilateral operations without American support against air defense networks that Iranian drone capabilities prove are far more sophisticated than previous assessments indicated. The Russian and Chinese strategic communities are interpreting this demonstration as validation of asymmetric warfare theories that have guided their military development for 2 decades. Russian military doctrine has emphasized using relatively inexpensive systems to impose disproportionate costs on technologically superior adversaries, forcing defensive expenditures that exceed offensive investment. China's anti-access area denial strategies rely on overwhelming American carrier groups through mass employment of anti-ship missiles, cruise missiles, and unmanned systems that create engagement mathematics favoring attackers. Iran's successful demonstration that 2,000 drones costing $70 million can force $11 billion carrier retreat provides proof of concept for doctrines both Moscow and Beijing have structured their military modernization around. The global South nations monitoring this event are drawing conclusions about American military capabilities relative to propagandistic reputation. Decades of Hollywood productions, defense industry marketing, and official Pentagon briefings have created worldwide impression that American carriers are invincible instruments of power projection capable of operating with impunity anywhere on Earth. The spectacle of America's newest carrier retreating from Iranian drone demonstration shatters this carefully constructed image, revealing vulnerabilities that undermine deterrence credibility and embolden challenges to American preferences throughout developing world. Subscribe to this channel because in a world this dangerous, analysis this sharp is not optional, it is necessary. Your engagement keeps this work independent and sharp. Share this analysis with everyone in your network who is serious about understanding what is actually at stake. The existential questions facing American naval planners cannot be answered through incremental improvements or tactical adjustments. The fundamental architecture of carrier-centric power projection was designed during an era when naval aviation provided capabilities no adversary could match, and defensive systems could reliably counter limited numbers of sophisticated threats. That era has ended. The proliferation of drone technology, the maturation of AI coordination capabilities, the democratization of precision strike systems, and the industrial capacity of adversary nations to mass-produce expendable munitions have created threat environment that carrier battle groups were never designed to operate within. The choices available to Pentagon leadership are all variations of retreat from previously held positions. Carriers can operate only in permissive environments beyond range of advanced drone capabilities, abandoning contested waters to adversaries and accepting that most strategically significant regions are now operationally inaccessible. Defensive systems can be upgraded to handle larger numbers of targets, requiring procurement spending that reinforces cost asymmetry advantages, favoring attackers, and still cannot guarantee success against opponents who can always increase swarm sizes faster than defenders can increase magazine capacity. Operational concepts can shift toward distributed operations using smaller platforms, acknowledging that carrier-centric model has been rendered obsolete and accepting the strategic consequences of reduced power projection capability. None of these options restore the military supremacy that has underwritten American global position for 7 decades. The Gerald Ford's retreat marks the end of an era where American military power could be projected with confidence into contested regions against adversaries possessing modern capabilities. What replaces this era remains uncertain, but the direction of change is unmistakable. The multipolar world is not a theoretical future possibility, but a present reality demonstrated through Iranian drones forcing American retreat. Has this night permanently altered the balance of naval power, or will Washington find a way to reassert carrier dominance? The answer will determine not just American military posture, but the entire architecture of global order that has rested on assumptions about American power projection capabilities that Iran just proved are no longer valid. Stay sharp, stay ahead, and never stop asking the questions that matter.